All right, let's go on and talk about the second principle there, and that's about listening. Now, I realize that with any group right here that there are some who would be considered great listeners, others that would be so-so, and some that would be marginal. We all have baggage around this area. And I just want to put to you out a little continuum that I think is important in regards to listening. Okay, we all know how to listen. The question is where are we at in terms of the effectiveness scale here? So down at the bottom here, you have somebody who just doesn't listen. We hope that that doesn't exist, particularly when we have a conversation about performance and development. But the reality is that there are people out there who have a reputation. You've heard it before. He never listens. Okay? One up from there is what we've called pretend listening. I'm not sure it's much better, but you know it. You've seen people that you've worked with who kind of fake like they're listening. And you can tell that somebody's faking like they're listening because they're not looking you right in the eyeball. They're looking like at your forehead, and it really kind of bothers you. You kind of go, I'm here, okay? Pay attention to me. So there is a little bit of faking sometimes on our part. And then you kind of move up here to discriminatory listening, which is, the code word for that is you're a multitasker. Oh, no, I'm listening, go ahead, okay? I'm listening, please, go ahead. And it just kind of sometimes is offensive to people, is that we kind of tune in and out with people. We think that we're doing pretty well, but maybe we're not. Now, the problem with that is that most people can assimilate up to about 500 words from an individual, okay? But most people only speak about 150 words a minute. So what do you do with the rest of the time? You tend to multitask. Well, I'm hearing you. I got the whole message, so I'm just going to pick up and look through some papers. It's not the most effective way of listening. Let's keep going up the scale. Focus listening. This is when somebody really pays attention to what you're saying. The problem with that is that even if your boss or you as an employee you're still listening to what's being said from your own biases, your own prejudices, your own lenses of how you see things. That's pretty good, but there's some flaws there. In the church here, we have something that takes us to the next level of effectiveness when we listen. It's when we listen with the Spirit, and it's called discernment. We all should have that discernment when we go into a performance conversation, whether we're an employee or a boss, and to make sure that the Spirit is with us so that we hear the truth. Because we've been told that the Spirit will tell us the truth in all things. That's a powerful thing that the world doesn't understand. But for us, it's something that becomes pretty important, particularly with the conversations with our people. Now, all I'm suggesting to all of you is to simply say, when you look at the scale here, so how do I stack up? Now, I know that there are some of you who think you're better listeners than maybe perhaps your spouse would say. Okay? And if you can't figure out where you are on the continuum, I encourage you to go ask your spouse or go ask your kids. I kind of got that once from my wife, and I've never forgotten this story. My wife tends to tell things like they really are. So one day, many years ago, she started the conversation by saying, "You think you're pretty smart, don't you?" Now, I don't know about you, but that's not a good way. You know that the conversation is going nothing but downhill, okay? And so what do you say? I kind of went, well, I mean, you can't agree or disagree because you just kind of stammer there a little bit. And she said this. She said, "You think that when you're faking like you're listening, that people think that you're listening. You know what it looks like when you're faking like you're listening? It looks like you're faking like you're listening." Thanks, honey. All I'm simply saying is that when it comes to having this meaningful conversation with your people, for crying out loud, put out the invitations, shut your yapper, and listen. And that's not only instruction or advice or counsel to the leader or the manager, it's also to the employee as well. The thing that I learned with Elder Bednar is put your agenda to the side, and your learning experience will be much more powerful.